When people imagine attackers, they often picture unlimited capability. An attacker who can go anywhere, do anything, break anything. That picture is wrong. In reality, every attacker operates inside constraints. Constraints are the limits that shape what attackers can do, how far they can go, and when they are forced to stop. And if you want to understand real security, not movie security, you have to understand constraints. Because attackers don't fail only because defenses are strong. They fail because boundaries exist. Let's start with a simple idea. An attacker is not defined only by what they want or what they know. They are defined by what they cannot do. Those limits are constraints. Constraints are the invisible walls that surround every attack. They don't always look like firewalls or passwords. Sometimes they look like time, sometimes money, sometimes risk, sometimes physics, and sometimes they look like boring operational reality. This is where many security models go wrong. They assume attackers are unconstrained, but real attackers are always trading off effort, exposure, and payoff. To make sense of constraints, it helps to group them into a few major categories. The first category is resource constraints. Attackers do not have infinite time, money, or infrastructure. Running large-scale attacks costs money. Maintaining access costs time. Developing custom exploits costs skill and coordination. Even nation-state actors operate under budgets and priorities. This is why attackers reuse tools, why they automate, why they abandon attacks that take too long. Security doesn't have to be perfect. It only has to be expensive enough to exhaust the attacker's resources. The second category is access constraints. Attackers can only act from the access they currently have. A compromised user account cannot behave like a domain admin. A foothold in one network segment cannot instantly control another. Every access boundary is a constraint. This is why segmentation matters, why privilege separation matters, why least privilege works. Not because it blocks attacks completely, but because it limits blast radius. Attackers must climb access ladders step by step, and each step introduces friction, risk, and visibility. The third category is visibility constraints. Attackers care deeply about being seen. Detection doesn't just stop attacks, it reshapes them. The more visible an action is, the more carefully it must be performed. The noisier the environment, the shorter the attacker's window. This is why many attackers prefer slow, quiet actions over fast, obvious ones. It's also why logging, monitoring, and alerting are powerful even when they don't block anything directly. Visibility creates pressure. Pressure is a constraint. The fourth category is operational constraints. Attackers operate systems too. They manage infrastructure. They coordinate people. They deal with mistakes, outages, and failures. A phishing campaign must be maintained. A command and control server must stay online. Stolen credentials must be tracked and reused safely. Attackers don't just attack, they operate. And operational complexity limits scale. The more complex an attack becomes, the more fragile it is. This is why many sophisticated attacks look surprisingly simple on the surface. Complexity is a liability. The fifth category is risk constraints. Attackers are not immune to consequences. Legal risk, political risk, reputational risk, retaliation risk. Different attackers tolerate different levels of risk. Financially motivated criminals avoid attention. Nation-state actors avoid attribution. Insiders fear exposure. Hacktivists accept publicity, but not persistence. Risk tolerance defines behavior. It determines how aggressive an attacker can be before backing off. This is why the same vulnerability can produce wildly different outcomes depending on who exploits it. The sixth category is environmental constraints. Attackers don't control the environment, defenders do. Network architecture, identity systems, update cadence, user behavior. These shape what attacks are feasible. A flat network enables fast movement. A segmented network slows it down. Strong identity controls limit impersonation. Weak identity controls amplify it. Attackers adapt to environments, but they are always constrained by them. Now here's the key insight. Constraints are not weaknesses, they are leverage. Good security doesn't try to eliminate attackers. It amplifies constraints until attacks collapse under their own weight. This is why security boundaries matter. Boundaries turn effort into friction. Friction turns persistence into cost. Cost turns ambition into abandonment. Attackers don't stop because defenders are smarter. They stop because the constraints become unbearable. This also explains a common misunderstanding. When a breach happens, people often say, "If they got in, security failed." That's not always true. Sometimes security worked exactly as intended. The attacker got in, but couldn't move, couldn't escalate, couldn't persist, couldn't extract value. Constraints turned a breach into an incident instead of a disaster. That distinction matters. So how do you design with constraints in mind? You don't ask, "How do I block every attack?" You ask better questions. Where does the attacker run out of time? Where do they become visible? Where does access stop expanding? Where does operational complexity overwhelm them? Security boundaries are answers to those questions. They define where attacks slow down, break apart, or become too risky to continue. And this leads to a final, important realization. Attackers don't need to be defeated. They need to be contained. Constraints are containment. They shape attacker behavior long before the attacker ever reaches their goal. That's why constraints are not an afterthought. They are the quiet architecture that turns systems from fragile to resilient. Security doesn't win by removing all risk. It wins by making risk unmanageable for the attacker. And that's what constraints really are. The invisible walls attackers can't ignore.